See this fancy thing right here? This is like a $50 microphone, $54.99 I think. You can find it sometimes on sale for $1 more or less than that. This is a dynamic microphone with a cardioid pattern right here in the front, and I'm actually remaking this video because I realized that if I, when I was sitting back in my chair, it didn't sound quite as good as when I leaned in to say something, and then I realized that it really wants you to be 2 to 6 inches away, and I think that's where it's going to be for a lot of people who are streaming, and I want to make sure that I give it the best review possible. So I'm going to try to stay, kind of close. So it's actually receiving the sound here in the top, which is a little different than a lot of the other mics out there that receive it right here in the front. I use OEM keys for a few different reasons. This is the price you're going to pay for Windows 11 Pro if you get a retail key. Let's check those prices on whokeys.com. $30, we can do better. Put in TS25, click apply. There we go, $23.22. Let's say you want to get a copy of Windows 10 Pro. I also have Windows 10 Pro, and right now that key still unlocks Windows 11. You can get Windows 10 Home, Windows 11 Home, and we have 2 flavors of Office. If you're sick of paying that monthly subscription, well, you can get yourself an offline version of Office 2019 or Office 2016. The other thing is OEM keys are generally locked to your hardware, so if you move it from one motherboard to another, you may need to get another key, but you'll have to get many keys to equal the price of one retail key. Let's go ahead and check out with our copy of Windows 11 Pro. All right, just put in my card info. There we go. Click on View Keys and Codes. Once you get to the User Center, click on Get the Key. You'll see your key right here in the middle. Go ahead and highlight that, copy that, press Start, and then type Activate. You'll see Activation Settings. Go ahead and click on that. And then right here it says Not Active. Just click on Change Product Key. Paste in our product key, and then click on Activate. Hey, look at that. Active. Head over to whokeys.com. Thanks to them for sponsoring. And now on to our regularly scheduled program. So I'm going to go through this. You're listening to this the entire video other than when I tell you I'm doing a test. But I'm going to go through this and talk about the specs, and then you're going to hear it, obviously. Tell you about the stand. It comes with a stand that's half an inch thick and 4 inches across. The stand goes on the desk. It's not extremely heavy, but you can also attach this to a boom arm. We have 2 different options here. You've got a 3/8 inch thread and also a 5/8 inch thread, so you can mount it to pretty much any boom arm out there. And I would probably recommend doing that. Before I even get into the rest of the video, I want to let you hear something. Let's say you're playing on your desk. Well, it will do a pretty good job of getting rid of some of the background noise because the pickup pattern is cardioid, meaning it's kind of a dome in front. But did you hear that? I'm tapping the desk. It doesn't have a shock mount, and you're probably not going to get a shock mount at this price point. So just moving my mouse around, clicking on things, that's how it's going to sound when you're moving and clicking on things. Let's play some games here. So I'll move the keyboard around and click on things in the background. So that's what it's going to sound like. But the problem for me is you take off your headphones, you set them on the desk, and you're going to hear this, If it's on a boom arm, you're not going to have to worry about that. If it's on a shock mount or whatever, it's going to be much better. You won't have to deal with the vibrations coming through the desk. So what's so special about this? Well, for $54, you're getting both USB-C and it's USB 2, which I really appreciate. I don't need to be using USB 3 for audio. USB 2 is perfectly fine. You get a 6.5-inch USB-C to USB-A cable to plug into your computer. Now, this also has XLR, giving you a pretty cool options for upgrade. Now, if you have XLR already, you've got a board or whatever, you can use XLR. It's going to sound pretty much the exact same as the USB, but the benefit of using XLR is you can run it through a board and do effects in real time that are honestly going to be better than what you're going to get with just something inside Open Broadcaster. Also, you're going to get a performance boost by not having to do the effects inside Open Broadcaster or inside your editing software. Just usually it sounds better. It has a nice look to it. You've got RGB, and you can change that by tapping the RGB button right here on the front. It changes from all kinds of different colors, purple and reds and whatever greens. And there's also a breathing rainbow mode for full-on RGB. Then we have 2 knobs right there. One is to control the volume of your mic, and the other one is for headphones, which is another port we have on the bottom. You have a headphone port so you can monitor yourself in real time, or you can use it as your headphones for whatever else. Now, it's not that heavy. I thought it was going to be, but it's really sturdy. Like the frame and the base, it's metal. But on the inside, it's also metal. You have a cage around where your microphone is, and then on top, that's just a piece of foam that you can take off and see the mic on the inside, but you want to keep that pop filter on there most of the time, so your t and your p is going to be shielded from those blasts of air from your mouth. On the back, we have a touch-sensitive mute button that you can There we go. Tap, turn it back on, and we're good to go. I wanted to cover all that other stuff before I covered the specs because I feel like it's kind of more important than the specs, and you're hearing this, which is the most important thing. All right, so specs. The bit depth is 16-bit, and it'll support 4400 or 4800 hertz. Frequency response is 50 to 16 kilohertz. Signal to noise ratio is less than 80 decibels, and the sensitivity is -50 plus or minus 3 decibels. I want to compare this to the Blue Yeti, which is a much more expensive microphone, and I want you to be the judge. I'm not going to say anything. You be the judge. So let's check out the Blue Yeti. This is a Blue Yeti I've had for several years, and these things generally go for a little over $100 depending on the setup that you go with, but a lot of times you can find them used. It's a higher price category, but these are the microphones I have to test with. And for grins, I'm going to try out my fancy microphone. It's like a $200 Samson. The problem I'm having with the Samson, though, is that the USB is starting to wobble around because it's USB Type B, which is weird, but yeah. This thing weighs like 10 times as much, but I do this for a living, so I've got this big fancy mic. This is the Samson G-Track Pro, just so you can hear what this one sounds like. I'm not sure how it's going to sound. I'll figure it out when I'm editing, but you know, this one also is like 4 times the price, just so you know. One of the things that I do like about this is it's not as heavy as like a Yeti, or certainly not as heavy as this giant Samson right here. So it's easier to put on a mount because it's not going to weigh the mount down that much. You can get a less expensive mount that's smaller and, you know, doesn't, you know, you don't have to get one that's like a super beefy arm. You can get a smaller arm or whatever, and it'll work just fine because it's not that heavy. It's pretty lightweight actually. So again, this is the Fifine AM8 USB and XLR dynamic microphone with RGB, touch, mute, I/O controls, live monitoring for streaming. That's the title. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you there.